I'm Jane Dickey, and I am chair of the Saugatuck Douglas Area Indivisible. Welcome. We are, and I say this reminding everybody who we are, it seems important. We are a local, nonpartisan grassroots group, part of the National Indivisible movement of millions of everyday people working to protect and strengthen our democracy. We believe that we must stand up, show up, and speak up, because people power democracy. We believe that when people come together, real change is possible, and there is strength in numbers. And we are a mighty group tonight. We welcome new voices and grow stronger as we organize, building community. We unite across our differences to protect and strengthen democracy that truly works for everyone. We stand against authoritarianism. We stand for the Constitution, and we fight for progressive policies and support leaders who reflect our shared values. Together, we keep democracy inclusive, accountable, and powered by the people. We are indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Yay. Yes, that's worth a yipper or a woohoo. We have a wonderful program for you tonight. We began with the revolutionary music of Carsey Blanton. She is, as many of you now know, a globally known singer-songwriter, and we were very fortunate that she began her world tour here in Saugatuck at the Council for the Arts as a benefit concert for us. How many of you were there? All right, then those who were there know what I'm talking about. She is good, and I hope now that she's been here, she'll come back to Saugatuck again when she finishes touring the world. All of the money was raised to support those who are marginalized by this administration, particularly the immigrant community threatened by the daily malfeasance of ICE. Our second major focus this year is preparing for the 2026 elections. As part of that initiative's Meet the Candidates, we have a great candidate for the Michigan Senate seat tonight, Mallory McMorrow, who will be joining us on Zoom as her schedule in Lansing kept her from joining us in body, but presumably she'll join us in spirit. Our third major focus is education and working to save democracy. Last month, we heard what keeps our elections safe and how our local communities work to make sure everyone has an equal opportunity to vote. And that continues in our local communities, and we are all part of that. Tonight, we will focus on the essential need to meet this moment: resistance. We begin by understanding with the state of things from our residential political essayist, Christy Allen. Christy, do you want to come up here, and she will give you a sense of what the state of things is.
I feel fancy. We're normally down there. All right, so let's get into it. Since Donald Trump returned to the presidency in January of 2025, one question keeps coming up. How much money has the Trump family made while Donald Trump holds the highest office in the United States? And the answer is staggering. Over $4 billion. And if you add in their digital assets, $9.7 billion since January. It starts with cryptocurrency. Just before returning to office, Trump and the members of his family launched crypto ventures tied directly to the Trump name. One of them, the Trump meme coin, exploded in value almost overnight. Analysts estimated that it generated hundreds of millions of dollars through token sales and trading fees. And then came one of the most controversial moves yet. The top investors in this Trump coin were invited to a private dinner with the president at his golf club in Virginia. So the message seemed clear. If you buy the coin, drive up its value, you can gain access to the president. That is why ethics experts have sounded alarms across Washington. At the same time, the Trump family's crypto company attracted massive foreign investment, including reports of tens of millions connected to foreign billionaires and firms tied to the United Arab Emirates. Foreign money flowing into businesses tied to a sitting president and his family should concern every American, regardless of the party. And now we learn that a new multi-billion-dollar fund has been created to be overseen by people handpicked by Trump and his former personal attorney, A.G. Blanche. This is to give reparations, as they call them, to anyone they deemed harmed by the Biden Justice Department, including the January 6ers. So if those of you in the back cannot see, I'm doing a hard eye roll right now. Meanwhile, as Americans struggle with rising costs, Washington continues to show just how disconnected it has become from everyday life. Recently, Speaker Mike Johnson, I'm from Louisiana, I apologize for him, he defended congressional stock trading by arguing that lawmakers need to take care of their families because congressional salaries have been frozen since 2009, and the cost of living has gone up. Really? No kidding, Mike. He argues for stock trading despite the obvious ethics conflicts since Congress creates laws or doesn't create laws that directly relate to businesses whose stocks that they buy and trade. Congress earns $175,000 a year, receives substantial government health benefits, and has access to pensions that many Americans can only dream about at this point. Meanwhile, Americans are told to work harder, to budget tighter, to take a second job, and to cut back. And now for a win, and God knows we need one. Minnesota keeps showing the world why they are awesome. Minnesota has charged another ICE agent. He will be held accountable for his actions that led to 5 assault charges. Our state governments are essential in pushing back on our rogue federal government.
There we go.
So after all that, I will leave you with this positive quote. And it's from J.R.R. Tolkien. But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. There is some good in this world, and it is worth fighting for. Amen.
So now that we see the state of things and that there are bright spots that make it worth fighting for, we know that it requires some superheroes. We need superheroes that are superheroes for democracy. Yes, indeed. A superhero that fights for democracy is wonderful Robin O'Grady. She brings joy and laughter and newsletter smarts to us. Be sure you sign up for the newsletter if you haven't yet. It is smart, it is encouraging, it is important, and it'll keep you connected with what's going on. Robin, would you come up, please, to reserve your thing? And please give her a warm. You look at those pictures. Is there any question about that she brings the joy? No, it's just incredible. Thank you so much. So, from that joyful note, injustice, corruption, and just plain cruelty confront us every single day under this administration. This calls for active resistance, and tonight's program is all about resistance. How do we resist? David, you want to start moving forward? We think globally and act locally. David Moore, who has been one of our heroes already identified, will introduce a global perspective and another superhero for democracy, thinking globally and acting locally.
Thank you. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Hi, I'm David. I work with Todos Bienvenidos. all are welcome here. That's our message. We've been working hard for the last 6 months to get that message out and have a tremendous group of volunteers from Holland down to the Indiana border working with us now to be sure that we are out and ready when these guys come back. In the meantime, we've been serving many families already impacted, not only by fear, but also by losing people to Baldwin and other facilities that I'm sure you're aware of. I want to introduce you tonight my Spanish tutor, Costanza Pastor, and I'll get out of the way so you can see her because she's so lovely. Costanza and I have been working together for 4 or 5 years now. I should be speaking much better Spanish, but it's not her fault. It's my aging brain. As she has lived under the reign of Milei, one of Trump's buddies in Argentina, she has suffered and she has been able to tell me what's coming because she's been living under a fascist nationalistic regime as we have entered now. I wanted to share with you a message she sent to us. This message was done at the time of the inauguration. I play piano, I play chamber music, and we put together as an alternative to the inauguration a resistance and resilience recital in my home in which Constanza appeared and addressed us. So I'm going to share that with you. We did a rehash concert very recently. Robin and Jane were there, and Jane said, let's share this video with people. And I'd like to do that. I talked to Constanza today, and she said, it still stands. Everything she said is what it has been and what it will be for us. And she's very happy to share the message with you.
Hola a todos. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to share this day with you. I want to thank David for inviting me to be a part of the recital. Gracias, David. My name is Constanza. I am a teacher in Córdoba, Argentina, and I'm also David's online Spanish teacher. During our time together, we have been sharing ideas about how hard and challenging it is to resist and to create community and support in times like this. It is very hard to live during a right-wing government, and it's very sad. When people say they are coming to take everything away, I feel like it's true. For us here, the cruelty of the current government seems to have no cap, no limit, no boundaries. I'm not going to go through all the bad things that are happening. You are already experiencing some of them in your own country, or soon you will. The erosion of our basic human rights, the loss of freedom, the injustice, the violence and cruelty against minorities, the change of laws that were created to protect us and to guarantee better opportunities for the less privileged. But I do like to share with you something that you may not see in the international media. In Argentina, 7 out of 10 children and teenagers live below poverty line. A little more than 50% of families can't afford housing and food. Most children in the public school system go to school because they get a meal. Often it's the only one they get that day. In this context, the defunding of education is even more dramatic than the loss of instruction, because it means the loss of the ties that bind schools, families, and communities. It also means more violence in the streets and more violence at home. Last week, the federal government decided not only to defund most of the sex education programs, but also to shut down the websites that held the archives of more than 15 years of collaborative teaching work related to sex education, including not only traditional topics like contraception, but also materials related to domestic violence, sexual abuse prevention, healthy habits, respect for diversity, gender identity, and gender diversity. This damage feels irreparable. One of my friends said something that has stayed with me in the little over a year that we have been under this right-wing and inhumane administration. She said, We have to stay strong. We have to take care of ourselves because someone has to stay and be there to pick up the pieces when it all falls apart, and it will. The way I see it, her words have two different interpretations. We can dwell on the fact that things are changing for the worse in the short term, or we can focus on taking care of ourselves. I would like to choose the second. I think everyone here at the recital wants to make that choice as well. In times where everything hurts so much, our choice is to stay strong, to build community, to keep the bonds alive in the hope that when it all falls apart, we will still be there to rebuild what's been lost. And because today we choose to resist through art, I would like to read a poem. It is called Mis Amigas, My Woman Friends, and it was written by Mariela Laudecina, a local poet and one of my professors in college. And it is about how fragile we are and how important it is to support each other. I'm going to read first in Spanish, and then I'm going to read the translation that I did for the event. I'm a teacher, not a poet, so please bear with me. Mis amigas no quieren tener hijos. Crían perros, gatos, plantas. La mayoría desistió de la universidad. No pueden mantener trabajo en relación de dependencia. Viven con poca guita. Piensan en otro ser. Algunas comen mucho, otras poquísimo. Le dan al trago. Algunas tienen hijas e hijos. Andan por los 30 y 60 y pico de años. Ninguna votó a Macri. No creen en Dios. Me han prestado plata, han cocinado para mí. Se han querido suicidar. Tienen baja autoestima y a veces alta, como la marea. Les gustan otras mujeres. Tienen ataques de pánico. Quieren irse de ellas mismas. Sus familias son pobres, con padres locos o de generaciones sin inconsciente. Ellas fuman, fuman y fuman. Son hermosas. Resisten y pueden sostenerme con un dedo. My women friends. They do not want to have children. They raise dogs, cats, plants. Most of them dropped out of college. They can't keep a job, at least not a formal job. They live on a shoestring with little money. They think about being someone else. Some of them eat a lot. Others, they barely eat. They drink a lot. Some of them have daughters and sons. Some are in their 30s, some are in their 60s. None of them, not a single one, voted for this. They don't believe in God. I have borrowed money from them. They have cooked for me. They have tried to commit suicide. They have low self-esteem, but sometimes it's high, like a tide. They like other women. They have panic attacks. They want to abandon themselves. Their families are poor, with crazy parents, or they come from generations without any awareness. They smoke, smoke, and smoke. They are beautiful. They resist, and they can hold me with just one finger. Enjoy the rest of the event, and remember, there's people resisting everywhere. You are not alone. We are not alone. Gracias. And adios. Goodbye.
Such a lovely person. So this is what they did within this year. This was last week. They closed the city of Cordoba. They closed the city of Buenos Aires. And they had this many people in the streets demanding that the government bring the funding back to the schools. It's a very brief video. after I have my lesson with Constanza on Mondays, then I'm a tutor for a man who lives in Kyiv, in Ukraine, who is a scientist who's about the same age as Constanza, and I'm his English tutor. So we kind of reverse the roles. And he's doing much better than I am at Spanish, so I must be a better teacher. Not really. But what I learned from him is just how incredibly important our being who we are is, because we are their defense. And on an official level, it isn't happening anymore. And yet every day his life is at risk, dependent upon NATO, depending upon the European Union, and depending upon the United States and our arms. And it is extremely important that they understand that we, the people, still support them day in and day out. And he is strong, unbelievably strong, as is Constanza, and still believes in us. So we must hold our belief in ourselves and understand that as a country, we can't pull this off. We can pull it together and it will end. We had a fundraiser with Carsey that was phenomenal for those of you that were there. One person had an idea, Julia Ludwig in South Haven. She said, I'm going to write this person and see if she would come. And Cindy wrote the letter, and we ended up with the most amazing concert that sold out the SCA, 410 seats, 375 people showed up. We raised, cleared after expenses for Todos Bienvenidos family support, $27,000 to $28,000. It's phenomenal. Up to this point, we've raised about 35,000. We've distributed about 17,000 in rent payments and bills, heating bills, gas bills, electric bills. We need the funds. The funds are needed by the folks who have been, unfortunately, put in a position of dependency, who were once quite self-sufficient until their breadwinners were absconded from their homes. The morning after this concert, we had $175 that was left at the front desk. We weren't asking for donations, but some people just dropped their money on the way out. We were able to pay a gas bill, electric bill that morning. They had a 48-hour cutoff notice. We couldn't have gotten a check that quickly. We were able to use that money to keep that electric from cutting off. We were able to tell Carsey. She was like, yes, that's why I did this. That's why I'm here. And that's why I believe in you. It's a lovely thing. We'll do much more of that kind of good work. If you haven't taken the training and you want to be in our family support, please take the training. There's also a notice at the back that tells you the next training's in Holland on the 2nd of June. We're going to be in Cass County and Dowagiac on the 13th of June. That will put us into 6 counties in the state of Michigan. We're strong and we're out there being ready for when these folks come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, David. So thinking, perfect example, think globally. We are not alone, as our resistor from Argentina said, and listen to the local activity and the local things that we're doing. Another local thing that also is thinking nationally, at least, is singing resistance. How do we resist? We think globally and act locally, and we also sing. Music, the concert that we just talked about, she sang all kinds of resistance. It was so beautiful and so wonderful to be a part of that. And tonight we have with us some of the leaders of our local movement, which is part of a national movement, singing resistance. And they are going to sweep all of you into the movement. So be ready. First see a video that introduces you to what it's about. It's a 3-minute video and hopefully it'll work and you can hear it, and then we will be drawn into the movement.
The singing first started 4 days after the killing of Renee Good.
Here comes the dawn.
300 people gathered in a neighborhood to encourage those hiding in homes nearby. They marched in frigid temperatures, many learning the songs for the first time.
This is mother.
6 days later, some 600 people showed up.
We are not afraid.
Double the numbers, double the courage.
I am not afraid. I am not afraid. I will live for liberation, 'cause I know why I was made. We've been singing that one in English and in Spanish.
No tengo miedo.
It's by a group called the Peace Poets.
This is one of the organizers of Singing Resistance. She didn't want to be identified out of concern for her safety.
Song is a vehicle for us to grieve. It's a vehicle for us to feel rage. It's a vehicle for us to strengthen ourselves. Like that song, I'm Not Afraid, that I sang. We're not singing it because we're actually not afraid. Like, we are afraid. It is terrifying what is happening. And it's a way to gather our courage.
Courage, it seems, is contagious. Last Saturday, hours after Alex Preddy was shot to death by Border Patrol agents, some 1,400 people came to the Hennepin Avenue United Methodist Church to sing. Elizabeth McCauley is the pastor.
It has been a time when it's been pretty tempting to feel so disempowered. And where is the voice of sanity and hope in the midst of community? And we all did it together. And the leaders of the Singing Resistance movement were beautiful. And they brought out the hope and the grief and the rage and the beauty.
Do you think song makes a difference?
And I know song makes the difference.
I like to think that more and more people are waking up. They want us to go about our lives while our neighbors are stolen from their families. And what I've seen is that after Renee Good's murder, after Alex Preddy's murder, more people are out in the streets the next day. The everyday acts of deep love and courage that I see my neighbors, my community members taking, that's the world that we want, and we're practicing it every day here.
And now you'll be drawn into this resistance movement together.
Hi there. So we are the song leaders for the Singing Resistance West Michigan. And like that video talked about, song is a tool. Song is a powerful tool. And before we get started, we just wanted to acknowledge the fact that, a lot of people have left organized religion with some anger and hurt in their hearts. And we happen to be sitting in a building with pews, and we happen to be looking at a symbol of a particular religious group, and we're going to sing some songs. And it is not about religion. It is not about trying to sneaky draw you into a religious thing. We just happen to be using this building, and we are using a very powerful tool, music, for resistance. Why music? Well, music connects to your soul, to your hope, to your neurobiology in a way that rage posting cannot connect. Doom scrolling cannot connect. Even making really beautifully snarky signs that are really beautifully painted cannot connect to your soul the way music can. So we would really like to invite you to sing with us. We know singing's cheesy. We know singing can be a little vulnerable, but we would like to invite you to come and do it anyway, because this helps us connect to our best parts of ourselves, to love instead of hate, to resilience instead of giving up, to forgiveness instead of, again, hate, and to unity instead of self-protection.
Okay, my name is April, and I'm in this group because I just think it helps things. It's therapeutic, it's strengthening, and I hope just keep lifting each other up and lifting each other up. So this first one is We Are Here. you have the song sheets. I sing, then you sing, then I sing, then you sing, and back and forth. And we do a few other verses. So we are here with our voices. Our love for each other will carry us through. We are here with our families. Our love for each other will carry us through. We are here with our neighbors. Our love for each other will carry us through. We are here with our nation. Our love for each other will carry us through.
This next one is Gather Your Courage. And so the beginning, we all sing together, and then there's a call and response after that, okay?
Okay.
If you want, you don't have.
All right, here we go. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Sing that again. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Everybody show up. Everybody rise up. Everybody shake it up. Everybody here. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Everybody show up. Everybody rise up. Everybody shake it up. Everybody here. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Everybody show up. Everybody rise up. Everybody shake it up. Everybody here. Okay, last time. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start. Gather your courage into your heart. When we're together, we can start.
I'm a drummer now. Woohoo! Multi-talented, she is. I'm Chris, and when Marcia said, "Hey, this is something we can do. This is something we can get out there and build community." And I've met so many cool people through Singing Resistance. All these people here and a bunch more. And now I'm excited to meet you as well. So excited to sing our next song. And the next one is "We Keep Us Safe." Ready? Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for each people will conquer hate. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Yeah, woo! Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. Our love for people will conquer hate. Woo! Right. And then the next one is one that you heard them singing. And this became one of my favorites from our folks in Minnesota. It's called Hold On. And I have hand movements, so oh, can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now? Okay, right to your face, right to your mouth. Okay. I have a big mouth. That's good. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Oh, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. One more time. Hold on. Oh, my dear ones, here comes the dawn.
That was beautiful, everyone. So I just wanted to share as we wrap up, we meet in different ways. So the Singing Resistance, we are modeled after Minnesota, and yet we're unique to West Michigan. So far, we've sung together during No Kings. We've sung together during Saturday protests in Holland. We've also sung while we've been making signs. We've had some song circles, and each of those, for me, and I think I hear that from others too, elicits a different feeling. When we're out singing for No Kings, it feels powerful, feels we're using our resistance and our voices in a strong, strong way. When we're singing in a song circle in a quiet setting like this, it's a healing balm. It just, I don't know, help me here. It just really gets to the core of the being. And with all the grief and sadness and rage and anger and hope that we have when we're singing together, it just really touches on so many of those things. We hope you will want to join us sometime. If you're interested, I've got this. Look at that. So if anybody's interested, this will take you to our link tree. I feel like Vanna White now. So this is our link tree, which brings you to our social media and our website. And it also has a link to the songs, which when you click on them, this is a lot of information, but you'll find it if you just do this, brings you to YouTube where you can hear the songs and learn them ahead of time. So it's a really useful tool. the next, oh, the other side, you might have seen this. Any of you know this? That's my art. Thank you. What was I gonna say? The next time that we're seeing will be for Holland's Pride, which is on Saturday, June 27th. Time is yet to be determined. I'm meeting with them just this week, but the information will be here if you would like to join us. It's been a pleasure and an honor to sing with you tonight, and we're so glad that you raised your voices with us. It's powerful when we sing together and resist together. Thank you, everybody.
One of the early times we met, we talked about the importance of song. And I personally had the experience of song in resistance in South Africa when Nelson Mandela was still in prison and we were marching with people there. And song was an essential part of the resistance. I also know that during the civil rights movement, when people were arrested and thrown into separate jails, they would sing because they could hear each other's voices in the prison and they would take up the space. It got so clear that the singing was important in South Africa that the apartheid regime outlawed singing. So that if they felt that strongly about it, it lets you know that song does matter and it's important. Thank you so much. The third thing we're going to focus on now is that we resist by informing ourselves to be smart voters. Craig Hudson will introduce Mallory McMorrow, who will be joining us through Zoom because she was engaged in the legislature in Lansing, and so she couldn't make it across the state to be with us in person. So she's joining us via Zoom. Craig will introduce her and continue finally after she speaks into a Q&A. And if you have picked up cards and if the people are go to the edges, if you didn't get a card and you want to ask a question, they will have some cards they can hand to you. If you write your question on the cards and hand them back to the outer aisles, then those will be pulled together. David will pull those together to formulate the questions. Thanks.
Good evening again, everybody. Welcome to what is our fourth candidate forum featuring Mallory McMorrow. Mallory's work ethic was inspired by her working mother, starting at 12 serving coffee at a local volunteer bingo night, to being a manager at a local grocery and various other jobs while earning her degree at the University of Notre Dame. Although graduating during the Great Recession of 2008, which all of us can remember, she was able to find work as an industrial designer, creative director, and small business owner, working on everything from car design, Hot Wheels, believe it or not, documentary films, commercials, live events, and branding for local businesses. Never planning a political career, she was compelled to enter politics because signs are falling over. Driven by the belief that politics should be driven by service, not self-interest, she inspired hundreds of local volunteers to help swing a Republican-held state Senate seat by 20 points to join the Michigan State Senate in 2019. This is something I'm sure most of you will remember. In 2022, when a right-wing state senator baselessly referred to her as a groomer in a fundraising email, she took to the floor of the Michigan State Senate in a now viral speech declared that we will not let hate win. The speech showcased her courage and moral clarity, leading to James Carville to say, "I'd show this tape as an instructional video," and the New York Times to label her one of the Democratic Party's most promising young talents. In that same year, she worked to lead Michigan Democrats in 2022 to a Democratic trifecta, flipping control of the state Senate for the first time in 40 years, while winning re-election in the newly drawn 8th District. Following the shift in power, she served as the first woman in state history to serve as Senate Majority Whip and chair the Economic and Community Development Committee. She's helped pass sweeping gun violence prevention efforts, expand reproductive rights, and eliminate the state retirement tax on seniors. Mallory not just has a vision, but a legislative record, which includes the economy, including healthcare, affordable housing, strengthening unions and raising wages, civil rights for the LGBTQ rights, LGBTQAI rights, banning conversion therapy, repealing the 1931 ban on abortion, and banning child marriage. In terms of the environment, she works for clean water and air regulations on tech center development, education and safety, feeding kids in school, immigration and foreign policy, and gun violence measures. There's so much more. You can look it up on the website to find details on Mallory's legislative record. But tonight we're lucky to hear from her directly. Although her schedule, as Jane mentioned, did not allow her to join us, which was planned in person, she joins us now virtually. Please welcome, and with the tech gods on our side, there she is. She's actually there.
Well, thank you, everybody. Craig, thank you for that
Hold
very.
on just a second, Mallory.
Oh, sure. I will hold on.
We got to get your audio working.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties, and thank you for being gracious enough to allow me to join you virtually. I would have loved to have been there in person, but we are going to make this work. I'm Mallory McMorrow. I am proud to be in this fight, asking for your trust, for your faith in allowing me to fight alongside you every single day as your next United States Senator. And I say fight alongside you very intentionally, especially when I am in front of indivisibles, because you've been out there doing the work every single day. And frankly, if I can be honest about the Democratic Party for a moment, the party needs to catch up. I know that none of us can do this alone. We can't take on the Trump administration or this slide away from democracy by ourselves. But together, when we organize, when we rally, when we use our voices, we can and we will save the country. And that's what's really at stake here. I had Senator Chris Murphy in town with me a couple of weeks ago, and we've been getting to know each other. And he opened with something that I thought was just so hopeful. And I want to share it with you tonight. He was reflecting on the fact that we are coming up on our nation's 250th anniversary. And when we think back to the founding of this country, it really shouldn't have worked. This was a group of people determined to break away from a monarchy, to decide that we were going to create a country where the people govern themselves. That is a radical and very messy idea. And somehow, despite all of it, 250 years later, we are still here, even as democracies around the world are failing. And many days it can feel like ours is as well. But every single one of us in this room, in these rooms across the state from each other, has been put into this country at this moment in time for a reason. And we can be the ones to say to our kids, to our grandkids, that when the future of this country was on the line, we were the ones who saved it. And when I heard him explain it like that, it just felt so hopeful and so empowering, and reminded me of so much of the work that we've done here on the state level. Now, why is it important for us to save democracy? We had a poll that was done here in 2024, shortly before the election, in which 20% of our voters across Michigan said they no longer believe democracy was the best form of government. And some of those people even went as far as to say maybe a dictator is worth a try. And if that is stunning, it should be. It stunned me when I read it for the first time. But we have to ask ourselves why. Why are there people in our state who would be willing to offer up the idea that this incredible experiment that has lasted for 250 years is worth throwing away? for a dictator? And if we don't answer that question, not only is it Democrats who will lose, democracy will lose. I spent an hour a couple of weeks ago at a roundtable discussion with 8 Trump voters in Macomb County. And if you are thinking that is a radical thing to do in a Democratic primary, you're right. But I wanted to understand why. And I was sitting across the table from a gentleman who shared with me that in his day job, he is a janitor at a nursing home and that he loves his job. He loves working with seniors, he loves making them laugh, but that his job doesn't pay enough. And at night, he does DoorDash, and he likes DoorDash. He likes the flexibility, he likes picking up shifts when he needs it. But between the cost of maintaining his car, if you can even find the parts, and the fact that gas is up near $5 a gallon, all of his extra income has been wiped out. And he said to me, I just don't believe anybody in Washington understands how much people like me are struggling. And he said he voted for Trump because Trump promised to blow it up and to drain the swamp, but he lied. Now, there's an opening, but it doesn't mean that he'll be willing to vote for a Democrat if he feels that both parties are the same. So you heard Craig very generously say in the opening, this was not my lifelong dream. I wanted to be a car designer. I designed a concept car live on stage at an auto show, full scale, when I was still in college, and then had the unfortunate timing of graduating in 2008. Everything collapsed. I had no job. I had no health insurance. I applied to 300 jobs. I had thousands of dollars in student loan debt, and I get it. It took a long time for me to dig out of the hole. And I get why people are so angry because you can do everything right, work hard, play by the rules, and you come out the other side drowning. So jumped forward to 2016. Many of you I know felt this way. I did too. When I watched Donald Trump get elected, I was nauseous. There was a video that went viral the day after the 2016 election of middle school students banging their fists on the tables and chanting, "Build that wall," at one of their classmates. And that video was from Royal Oak Middle School, which had been my polling place the day before. And I Googled how to run for office. It just broke my heart to see that kids overnight learned that this was acceptable. I decided to take on my state senator, who was the Republican incumbent, who had won by 16 points. And when I told a local Democratic Party leader what I wanted to do, one of them looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oh, honey, that's cute." Which in ways was really empowering because it meant there were no expectations and I could run the campaign I wanted to run. We brought together hundreds of volunteers. We knocked on thousands of doors, hosted every event we could, and we swung that district 20 points in a single cycle. I beat him by 4 in a district I had no business running in. Then a few years after that, I leveraged a viral speech, and what you didn't see was that behind that, I opened up a state PAC. I raised millions of dollars, not for myself, but for a dozen other candidates running for state senate, brought my volunteers all across the state, and we helped flip control of the state Senate to Democrats for the first time since 1984. So I come into this as majority whip. And when we got power in Lansing, we governed like we give a damn. We repealed the 1931 abortion ban. We expanded access to reproductive health care and to doulas and to midwives. We repealed the law on child marriage, which I cannot believe I have to say in 2026, and 5 of my Republican colleagues spoke out against that. We expanded civil rights. We expanded voting rights, especially important at this moment where the president is trying to take that away from us. We repealed the seniors' pension tax. We passed sweeping gun violence prevention measures. We protected our air. We protected our water. We've done so much good work. And I'm running for Senate now because what I believe is this is a blueprint for how Democrats, and frankly, anybody who cares about democracy, needs to show up and fight, needs to show up and win, and has to actually deliver for the people they serve. I am proud to be endorsed by 4 U.S. Senators, Peter Welch, Martin Heinrich, Elizabeth Warren, and Chris Murphy, who are all part of a group of senators who are deeply frustrated with the leadership of their own party, my own party, and want to see us fight harder. Now, this is going to be the most important Senate race in the entire country. It will decide who controls the U.S. Senate. Mike Rogers is back. He has Trump's full support. and he will have tens of millions of dollars flooding behind him. The Senate Leadership Fund announced they will spend $45 million here. That is more than they will spend in Georgia, Maine, Iowa, Alaska, and New Hampshire. So this is it. It's ground zero. We cannot afford to play it safe. We cannot afford to be Republican light. We got to go big. We have to know how to win. We have to know how to deliver. And with that, I'm just so grateful for everything that you do. I have taken my 5-year-old daughter, Noah, to a number of No Kings protests. And I held the bullhorn down to her. She was tugging on my pants and she wanted to say something. And she's 5, so she could have said anything. She could have, yelled poop for all I know. But I held it down, I pressed the button, and she yelled, "We all share our world." And I was so moved to see her surrounded by people. I wanted her to see what it looks like when we come together and we use our voices and how powerful we are. And I do this every single day for her and for all of our kids, and to ensure that there is still a democracy for her. And I'm just grateful for all of you. So thank you for the time, and I am happy to take any questions if you have them. Hidden the fact that I am a Michigander by choice. I have lived all over the country. My husband is a 4th-generation Royal Oaker. My daughter was born at the same hospital where my husband was born. This is where we got engaged. This is where we got married. Michigan welcomed me with open arms. But like a lot of people, sometimes you complain online, on Facebook, on Twitter. And there were old tweets of mine that were dug up and became a CNN primetime news story, where, and I am just quoting what I said, and I know that we are in a house of the Lord, so I apologize. I will censor myself. I said yesterday it was 50 degrees. Today the sky is shitting ice. And they ran that as I was critical of the weather, in as if that was something that isn't very, very Michigander of me. So it's stunning. I mean, I hope that we live in an era where people can be themselves and run for office. I didn't plan my entire life around running for office, and sometimes I complain about the weather, including today. We had flash flooding in Detroit, and I got stuck. I can hear you.
Yeah, I know.
Hello.
Next question, will you sign on to legislation that states Congress, the Senate and President and his cabinet and their family shall not buy or trade in stocks?
Yes, absolutely. This is on my website now. We need a complete transparency and corruption overhaul. So I support overturning Citizens United, banning congressional stock trading, banning anybody who's serving in these offices or on staff from participating in these prediction markets, getting dark money out of politics. I am not taking a dime of corporate PAC donations. I think that needs to be the law. And you need to know that when you send your next senator to Washington, they are working for you and not using information that they have to enrich themselves.
What will you do to stop the erosion of the rights of LGBTQIA and people under the current administration, specifically regarding the rights of families to decide what is right for their transgender children and marriage equality?
Thank you for the question. It has been heartbreaking to watch, and how you frame the question, I think, is exactly right. This is about the freedom for parents and families to decide what is right for their kids. When we saw the callous attacks on the LGBTQ community in 2022, I stood up and I said very loudly and very clearly that people who are different are not the reason why our healthcare costs are too high, or why the roads are in disrepair, or why teachers are leaving the profession. And I cannot for the life of me understand how people sleep at night targeting kids who just want to live and just want to exist as who they are. And I have heard from parents who shared with me they actually moved to Michigan in the wake of everything that we did in 2022, in not only, beating Republicans who tried to make LGBTQ issues, the nexus of their campaigns to win. We showed that hate will not win. That was what I said in that speech. But we also built power, and we were intentional in that one of the very first things we did was expand the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to explicitly protect LGBTQ Michiganders from discrimination and from housing. And I will always use my platform to push back on people who come at our kids. That's your rights. You know, you raise your kid, you protect them just like I would protect my daughter. And that is a universal value that I will always champion.
What's your plan to increase affordable housing?
We have to treat the housing crisis like a housing crisis because it is. There is, you know, I told you I graduated in 2008. Our rate of new housing build plummeted during the 2007 to 2009 recession. Estimates show we are anywhere from 6 to 10 million housing units short in this country to really get back to a place where housing is affordable. And I've got a track record to back it up. In the Michigan legislature, we helped finally pass an affordable housing fund into our state budget for the first time in state history. $50 million a year went into building or rehabbing housing. And we set a goal for ourselves with MISHDA of 75,000 housing units built or rehabbed by 2026. We passed that goal. We are on our way to 115,000. Now, with the power of the federal government, we should be pouring money into this just like we do into incentives for companies and to the military. This is a crisis. Do any of you, I'm not going to see a response, but in Pennsylvania, I use this as an example, when there was a highway that collapsed, the government there, the governor, was able to declare a state of emergency and rebuild a highway, something that should have usually have taken years, took days. And we need to start treating the housing crisis like exactly that. I also want to pursue policies that would encourage municipalities to adopt more multifamily housing friendly zoning laws by putting money behind it. You should be eligible to access grants for your municipality if you build more multifamily housing. That way, if the federal government puts money behind it, it makes it an easier political move for some of our friends in local government to make the case to their voters, who I know many times are in staunch opposition to zoning reform, to make that easier to swallow if there's money behind it to allow for bringing more housing online.
Thank you. Now, next question. You state that you didn't take any APAC money, but you have written an APAC sympathetic paper. Why did you write this paper and what was in it?
So I would push back on the characterization that's sympathetic. There are many people in Michigan, many Democrats, who have been members of APAC for many years. And I think it is important to sit down and meet with everybody. I sat down with them to tell them to stay out of this Senate race. One of my opponents, her largest donor supporter over her career has been APAC. And I watched here that they spent millions of dollars in a primary between her and Andy Levin in a way that could really change the course of this race. And I fundamentally believe that we need to let Michiganders decide. So I will meet with anybody, even when I disagree with them. I did not meet with them to ask for their support. And I fundamentally believe that the United States needs to be a moderating force to end the violence, to put negotiators on a path again to self-determination for Palestinians and a Palestinian state alongside an Israeli state, that the Netanyahu government's actions to bomb Gaza to the point where it's uninhabitable continue to push settler violence in the West Bank. And now 1 million people in Lebanon have been displaced, many of those with direct ties to families in Michigan, is an abomination. And we as a country need to use our standing to simply bring it to an end.
This was somewhat related question is, I heard you suggest that Palestine built an iron dome for its safety. Do you still think that's a good idea?
So this was in the course of a conversation with a more progressive podcast. And in the course of the conversation, the question was posed, what about the Palestinians? And what I said was, I don't believe anybody should live in fear of being bombed or killed. And I can't imagine what that is like. My ultimate hope is that none of this is necessary, that we, again, use our position as the United States to help secure long-term peace and security for Palestinians with a Palestinian state, that there's long-term peace and security for Israelis. We have to acknowledge that millions of people live in the Middle East. There's a fantastic organization called Standing Together that I encourage following. They're on social media, that is made up of Israelis and Palestinians coming together to say that they should be the ones to determine how we coexist, how we live together, and how we do so peacefully. And my stance is that the United States should be in support of those on the ground, who are advocating for those solutions. So I hope, just in the way that I hope that we can live in a country here free of gun violence, I hope that we live in a world where no country needs an Iron Dome system. And that was the longer version of the conversation in that podcast.
Thank you. How would you describe yourself and your positions in comparison to Stevens and Elstad?
I think it's a tricky question, and I'm going to answer in a way that I hope doesn't come across as a punt, because I don't think most people neatly put themselves into political lanes. Every national reporter who's watching this race wants to say one is the progressive candidate, one is the conservative candidate, and one is in the middle. I am somebody who cares deeply about solving problems and getting things done. As you heard, I beat a Republican incumbent to get into office. But I have also been incredibly aggressive on issues like reproductive rights. I was the primary bill sponsor in the Senate of the Reproductive Health Act in 2019. That was the first version of the legislation that would have codified Roe into our state law before the Dobbs decision. And I was advised by some political advisors, don't take that on. It's too risky of an issue. You're in a swing district. I have also been incredibly aggressive on gun violence prevention, as the primary sponsor or co-sponsor of all of our gun violence legislation. I will have legislation introduced this week to create a permanent office of community violence intervention to ensure that we're building local relationships to end gun violence before it starts. And when it comes to our fundamental rights, I will stand up and I will fight, and I will fight hard. I also care about being pragmatic and practical. The role of a legislator, and I've learned this, especially as the majority whip, is building coalitions. You need the numbers of people to vote to move any policy, and that means sometimes building relationships with people who might disagree with you. We have a 2-seat majority in the Senate, now officially a 2-seat majority again, now that Chedrick Green won his state Senate special election over in Bay City. But it means that sometimes we got to bring Republicans on board to pass legislation to move it. So I consider myself a pragmatic progressive, in line with somebody like Senator Elizabeth Warren, who I built a deep relationship with. She is supporting my campaign. And I want to reach as many people as possible, and not block them out because they may not consider themselves in the exact lane that I am.
This is a long statement, but read it all to you so you can take it and answer. Your husband was recently employed by Radiant Nuclear, which to my understanding builds the power supply for the data centers that are being built across the United States, including Michigan. You also voted to give tax breaks to these data centers that want to come to Michigan. Additionally, you have accepted thousands of dollars from DTE toward your other campaigns. Do you think this is a conflict of interest, or is your family benefiting in any way from the building of data centers, or anywhere else?
Thank you for the question. No, my family does not benefit in any way from any data center company. Don't have any relationship to any data center company or any supplier of any data center company. My husband left his job, and that was a company that built small scale nuclear reactor pods that were mostly going to be used to be deployed to emergency situations. They were in no way a supplier of any data centers, definitely not here in Michigan. We don't own any stock. We don't own any ownership stake of any of these companies. So no, there is no conflict of interest whatsoever. On the legislation that we passed in Michigan, something that I think is important to realize is a few years ago, there was legislation to provide incentives to data centers with no benefit to Michiganders. And I voted no on that legislation years ago. Then there was legislation that came before us that provides a sales and use tax exemption to a data center company with some strict conditions attached. Those conditions are that the company must use at least 90% renewable energy, that they must use sustainable building practices, that they must use a municipal water source. It requires in law that ratepayers are required by law not to subsidize the energy costs of that data center. And it prohibits double dipping on incentives. So if they get the sales and use tax exemption, they are not allowed to, for example, get a property tax exemption. Property taxes is where the millions of dollars in revenue windfall will come into our state for things like schools, municipalities, police, fire, air. I have also introduced a comprehensive data center policy that says we should go further. And I'm working on legislation in the state Senate now to go further to regulate all data centers in Michigan. We are unique in that we are positioned with fewer extreme weather events than many other states, so we are already an attractive place to locate. So we should be really selective about which companies we allow to operate in Michigan. We should reject any data center that hurts Michigan's air and water, that does not use local labor, local union labor, that harms our watershed in any way, that does not bring new renewables onto the grid, not just for the data center itself, but for the benefit of all of our residents, helping get to our clean energy goals. And I support an idea that was put forward by Attorney General Dana Nessel of requiring these companies to put all of their upfront capital expenditures into an escrow account, because with the billions of dollars that are pouring in to build out data centers nationwide, in all likelihood, some of the companies are not going to make it. And that should be required to be covered up front so that residents of Michigan are not left holding the bill if one of these companies doesn't pan out.
We have time for one last question, if you'd like to just have a closing message for us. Okay.
Sounds good.
What will you do to put an end to endless wars, including but not limited to Israel's aggression in the Middle East?
It's devastating. Let's be clear. Donald Trump won election again, in part by promising people he would be the president to end wars and not start them. And it is not only the Middle East, it's Venezuela. It is in Cuba. I mean, we had a Google Doc running on my campaign the other day because I was bouncing from event to event. And the question was, did we just go to war with Cuba? And it turns out, no, he just made a joke. I mean, this is a man who has said out loud that he doesn't believe he is governed by any international law, only by his own sense of morality. And every single Republican in the Congress and the Senate has refused to vote on the War Powers resolution that would put any of that into check. That is terrifying. I would have supported the Sanders resolution to block arms sales to Israel. Believe that that's the right thing to do to bring this war to an end. But it's not just the Middle East. We need to reassert our relationships around the world, and I am uniquely positioned to do that. In my private sector life before this, I worked at Mattel. I was the senior designer over global branding and licensing for Hot Wheels, which was very fun. But it also meant that my job was about building relationships with over 2,000 licensees from all around the world. So every single day, I was on the phone with Greece and Argentina and Brazil, Mexico, China, wherever you name it, I built it. And I loved that role because I recognized that for every country around the world, we are the shining beacon on the hill. People want to be us. They aspire to have the democracy that we have. And Donald Trump has lit those relationships on fire. And I think having somebody that has that experience to come in and start to build amicable trade relationships, rebuild our allies, bring back programs such as USAID. I mean, the return on investment for us doing good around the world was the best foreign policy we could ever imagine in the United States. It is peace through relationships, peace through economy, peace through trade. And that is my litmus test. We should not be starting any wars. We need to be ending wars. We need to rebuild relationships with our allies, and we need to build new allies so that we bring the violence to an end and we stop bombing other countries and we invest in our own kids and in our healthcare and in our schools.
Fortunately, answered. One more question,
Okay.
I guess. No, if you just want to sum up tonight for us, we want to thank you for your time and wish you good luck. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it dipped out at the end, but I think you said thank you for your time. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for taking time, for bearing with the technical difficulties and my schedule. It really is just an honor of my life to do this work, to meet so many of you. I love doing it in person when I can, and I am balancing my role in the state Senate. We are in the middle of budget negotiations right now. I want to make sure that we pass the strongest budget possible to protect a lot of the programs that we have put in place. And I'm also balancing being the mom of a 5-year-old. So thank you for bearing with me. And I welcome you to follow up with any questions that you have. We are at McMorrowformichigan.com. We have 2,000 volunteers all across the state. We have organizers all over the state. We are out on doors. So if you want to get some steps in and join us, we would absolutely love to have you. And thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I think you've heard from an aspiring candidate for Michigan Senate seat. You will learn ways to volunteer. You need to step up and speak up and volunteer, and hopefully many of you picked up the sheet that describes that. So let me list some of the things that are coming up. Linda Shabbat, who you may know as Lady Liberty and other times, as Lisa wasn't able to be with us tonight, so she has postcards. If you want to take a packet and send postcards out, get out the vote, they're all sent to Michigan. We're working to make sure we get plenty of people out to vote. Let's see, yes, slide, we have a slide here. There's okay. So we have several things happening that you need to look at that may be helpful to you. We have a get out the vote with the postcards. Besides picking out the postcards, you can join us at on May 27th with the postcards. But we also have a very fun event: postcards and wine for the win. There it is. There's postcards, and these, by the way, are coming from our events page on our website. Be sure to go there. We always have great things that are happening. We'd love to see you there on June 4th. You don't have to drink wine if you don't want to. I'll be drinking wine, and I'm happy to toast you all. Prepare to respond with ICE, the impact of ICE with training, with total spend, and you've already heard what a difference that can make. And in the back of the room, you'll see David back there waving at you. You know, he's holding up a box to put money in. So just toss some money into there. And then when you pass by that, you toss some money that helps support us in the expenses we have for running the meetings and doing the work that we do. That would be wonderful. We also have a Pride booth. We will have a booth at the Pride event, which is and our superhero. You already have met her. Will be at the back with a sign-up sheet. You can sign up for a little bit of time to be at our booth to help orient people, to welcome people, to make it. How many of you have been to the Song of Douglas Pride? It is a wonderful, it is a fabulous event, right? It's just wonderful. So sign up and you can come and help us. We also will have a 4th of July parade, provided, please God, that it doesn't rain on us again. Last year it rained on us. We were all standing there, 30 of us, to go with our float. Yeah, there's the SOS float, and Lady Liberty will be on it again this year. But we need the waves. We have these waves. They're already made. Just show up at the high school. The information is there, and you can walk with the parade on July 4th. Thank you so much for joining us. You've already made an important step. By standing up, showing up, you've joined the movement of resistant singers, which I felt it, I hope that you did too. And I have no doubt in the days ahead that you will be speaking up as well. Because remember, people power democracy. Go well, be well, and I'll see you at these events.